So is my screen visible?
No, sir.
What about now?
Still, it is not showing, sir.
Okay, let me check.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible, sir. Your slide is visible, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mukesh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Please.
so welcome to all the participants, and I think your training is going good, and I'm definitely sure that NPTI is really doing a hard work for the power sector so that a resilient cybersecurity network can be established across the nation. Today, we will be talking on the requirement of frameworks, why the frameworks are required, and how a framework can help us to mitigate the cyber risk into our organization's environment. Vikas Srivastav ji, screen not visible. I think it's visible. Can other participants please confirm?
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Zahur. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. So today we'll be talking about the frameworks, that why the frameworks are required, and what are the different frameworks we have globally. But today this session is specifically for the NIST CSF. It means Cyber Security Framework. In short acronym, we used to say CSF. And currently, if I talk about NIST Cyber Security Framework, it has released two versions, 1.0 and 1.1. And just 2 days before, today is 10th August, and just on 8th August 2023, they have released the public opinion for the new version of NIST framework, CSF 2.0, Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. So you can see that this is a live framework, and regularly updates are receiving on this framework. So let us understand that what exactly is a framework and how framework can help us in building a resilient environment. So to start this with, I want to ask some little bit questions from you people. If you want to build a house, okay, if you build a house, what is the first step you will take? Either you can unmute yourself or you can use the chat box, because I wish to have this session interactive one. I do not want that I am going to speak and you going to listen. Let it be an interactive session. Okay, foundation. What about others?
Soil test, sir.
Soil test, yes, and more than that, make a plan. Good, good, Paritosh ji, make a plan. Structural framework, good. Pillars, excellent. So basically, everyone is talking about a roadmap. Okay, so everybody is talking about a roadmap, that how we going to build a house. So when we going to build a house, first of all, we need to have a land or some area where on we is going to build a home. Secondly, we need to have a plan, or you can say a map. Okay, we create a plan and a map. In that plan, in that map, we need to build a structure. Okay, what structure means? When you build a house, you do the foundation of the pillars and all. You build the walls. Then on that pillars, you lay your roof, RCC and all. So this is a way to build a house. In the same way, you can see when we need to implement cyber security, when we need to implement cyber security in the organization, we need to have a plan. Okay, and that plan can only be executed if we have a framework. Okay, so this framework is nothing but a roadmap, that how we going to proceed and what are the different achievements and what are the different goals we have to achieve if we need to build a resilient cybersecurity frame policies into our organization. So let us define what is a framework. Cybersecurity frameworks are a set of documents describing guidelines, standards, and best practices designed for cybersecurity risk management. The framework exists to reduce an organization exposure to weakness and vulnerability that hackers and other cyber criminals may exploit. Okay, so here I have write down two important words. One is a weakness and one is a vulnerability. Okay, so let us go back to our example again for building a plan. Tell me one thing. If you built pillars, okay, of big size, what is the benefit? Tell me, what is the benefit if you build pillars of big size? Strength. Thank you, Rajiv ji. Thank you, Rajiv ji. Paritosh ji, thank you. You definitely having more strength. You will be getting more age, I can say. If you compare to houses, or you can see that there are a lot of killa in Jaipur. We used to say killa and all the historical monuments. When you visit them, you can see that the pillars are of very big width. Even 1 meters width of pillars are available. What is the reason? They just want to check that the weakness should be reduced. Okay, so the weakness should be reduced, and this weakness will one day become your vulnerability. Okay, so there is a one more word to you, vulnerability. So vulnerability means if you are creating a structure and that structure is not able to resist an earthquake, then it is of no use. Or you are building a structure and that structure is not having a proper foundation, having a proper layout plan, then there is of no use. In the same way, when we talk about structure and framework in cybersecurity, it means we have to create a system in our organization so that we can reduce the weakness and vulnerabilities into our system. Okay, so most of the times in our Indian power sector perspective, I'm talking about Indian power sector perspective, we have usually two frameworks are very much popular. One is a ISO IEC 27001 2013, and now we have a newer version to this, that is 27001 2022 version has also released. Okay, so basically it is a standard for information security management system, and ISO 27001 is talking about the information security, how you going to manage the information security organization. Also, when we talk about the ISO framework, the important thing is that it is also talking about the physical security and securing the information that is available in the physical form. Okay, so that is also important when we talking about frameworks. Okay, when we talking about frameworks, one need to understand that it is also applicable on the digital information and it is also available on the physical information. So can anybody tell how many type of information are available? One is a digital, one is a physical, and there is one more. Can anybody tell the type of information existence? Analog is something in the physical or digital form, I think so. What about others? Okay, any type of information that is retention in someone's mental information, I would say, or retain in mind. Okay, So this type of information is also important when we talk about this ISO 27001 2022. So all these three type of informations are covered. Okay, and for any framework, all these three type of information are to be protected, and proper mechanism and proper controls are required to be implemented for the protection of information. Okay, the second framework that we are going to talk today is about the NIST Cyber Security Framework. So what does NIST stand for? NIST stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's a organization in USA, and it has provided lot of frameworks actually. NIST SP800 series, there is a separate NIST SP800 series. Okay, SP800 series is there, and lot of security standards are available in this NIST SP800 series, but this particularly we called as a CSF 1.1 Cyber Security Framework 1.1. Why there is a 1.1? Because in 1.0 we have certain issues that are being resolved in version 1.1, and as I have told that this standard is released on 16th April 2018. Okay, so it's around 5 years the old version has released. The frameworks focus on using business driver to guide cybersecurity activities and considering cybersecurity risk as a part of organization risk management process. So this is very important. It is talking about how the organization risk management process is going to be taken care of by the people in the organization. Also, the different type of risks that is available at the end of the user is going to be taken care of by the framework. So this framework is basically divided into three parts. It is divided into three parts. The first is a framework core. Then we have a implementation tier. Then we have a framework profile. So we will be talking about each and everything about core, tier, profile. We will be also doing the risk assessment, because risk assessment is a important thing. Okay, so we are also doing risk assessment. There I have created a sheet for you people where we will be doing some risk assessment exercise also, and in that risk assessment exercise I wish that everybody could participate. Okay, and as I've already told that this is the latest changes are being proposed in the NIST Cyber Security Framework. It is yet not released CSF 2.0, but IPD has released. Okay, they called it as IPD, initial public draft, and you can download the IPD from this. And on 8th of August 2023, this IPD is released. So just 2 days before, today is 8th and today is 10th actually. So just 2 days before this new framework initial public draft has released. So I would recommend that you first study the NIST Cyber Security Framework 1.1. Then after you go through it, you can have a read at least about the NIST Cyber Security Framework 2.0, so you can understand that what are the major changes. Already I have read this IPD initial public draft, and during the session today I will be talking that what are the changes they have proposed, and probably that changes are going to be part or not. It's a part of a committee that is going to be taken care of by the NIST, but we will going to discuss on it that what are the different things and what are the different paradigms that the framework is talking about. Okay, so let's talk about the salient features of the framework. That what are the salient features of framework. Okay, so this framework was developed to improve cyber security risk management in critical infrastructure. The framework can be used by organization in any sector of or community. So this is a very important thing, that why the framework was developed. The framework was developed to improve the cyber security risk management in critical infrastructure. This is a main pointer, to improve the cyber security risk management in critical infrastructure. Before this framework, there is no such guideline available actually into the terms of cyber security guideline that is talking about the security framework for the critical infrastructure. as we know that we all are from the power sector, and in this power sector, the government body NCIIPC has declared lot of organizations as a critical infrastructure, and a lot of CII are already declared by the NCIPC. CII means critical infrastructure information. Okay, so CII, once a CII is declared for an organization and it become a critical infrastructure, so it can hamper the national security, it can hamper the national health, it can hamper the national economy also. So as we are from the power sector and power sector is a critical infrastructure, so I would say that if we compare ISO and NIST, both are having an equal importance. But if you talk about specifically for the SCADA environments, I particularly feel that NIST framework can be very much useful. Okay, so tell me how many organizations have implemented this framework into their organization? How many? If it is no from your side, you can write chat no in the chat box so that I can have a brief idea that how many people are using this framework currently. Mayank saying no. Okay, what about others? I want quick response from you people. Rajiv ji, few. Okay. Okay, so as I can see, like most of the people, most of the organizations are still not aware about this framework. But definitely, Wilson ji is saying we receive NCIPC alerts for IT. Good, because because Wilson ji, because you are your infrastructure is declared as a CII, so that's why you are getting the NCIPC alerts. Okay, so what I'm seeing from the chat box that lot of organization are still not using this framework. I don't know why, but definitely it's a wonderful framework, and ministry has also incorporated this framework into the syllabus. Like this is the today we are conducting a session on this very platform of NPTI, and this platform the syllabus is already approved from the CA Ministry of Power also. So ministry somewhere want you people to understand the importance of this NIST framework. Okay, so let's move ahead. The framework enable organization regardless of size. So this is very important. Regardless of size, maybe your organization is of 50 people, or maybe your organization is of 10,000 people or 20,000 people. It doesn't matter. You can implement this framework into your organization. Secondly, degree of cyber security risk. Some people say that we have disconnected our systems from the internet. We do not have any type of cyber risk actually into our organization. So we don't need any framework. So I think they are having a sound sleep, and I would recommend them to just woke up, because most of the OT environments which have a proper air gap are facing this issue. Sir, whether NIST framework requirement is included in cybersecurity guidelines of CA? No, actually, when I talk about NIST cybersecurity framework, actually NIST is not a certifiable framework. Okay, NIST is not a certifiable framework. On the other hand, ISO 27001 is a certifiable framework. So when we talk about differences between this, already I have covered one slide at the end, but since you have asked question right now, so NIST framework is not certifiable. You can't put a certificate on the wall of your organization that we are NIST certified. There is no such thing NIST certified. But yes, ISO 27001 is a certifiable standard. So guidelines are still not saying anything about the framework, NIST framework, but definitely they wish that you people understand this framework and implement into your organization, because implementing such frameworks will enhance your cyber security capabilities. Lisa Sarin, is it fine? Is your question answered? Just type yes or no. Okay. So
Yes,
we
sir.
are,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, thank you, Lisa. Yeah. So regardless of size, we have seen, then we have a degree of cybersecurity risk we have seen. So no matter what type of what level of cybersecurity risk you have, or cybersecurity sophistication, that how sophisticated is your organization. Okay, some organization have a very simple network architecture. They just put a firewall in front of the public facing environment onto the internet, and then they have a simple rules zoning segmentation into their internal networks. And some organization have a very critical infrastructure. They have lot of firewalls in it, lot of IPS IDS, and lot of zonings are there. They have a separate MZ DMZ inside zones. So regardless of the sophistication, this framework can be implemented. Okay, so this framework provides a common organizing structure for multiple approaches to cybersecurity by assembling standard guidelines and practices that are working effectively today. Okay, so what this word means, assembling, this is very important. Assembling means it is not in isolation. Okay, this framework is not working in isolation, and it is incorporating the good things of other standard also. When we talk about this framework, there is a separate structure of references, normative references, I would say. There you will be going to see that how the other architectures are working, how the other frameworks are working in line with this CSF 1.1, I would say, Cybersecurity Framework of NIST. Then you have a better idea about this, that it is not working in the isolation. Okay, so this is the picture I have taken from CSF 2.0. Okay, it is not yet released, but since I like this structural overview very much, because in the previous versions they have a very less emphasis. They are putting a less emphasis on the profile part. Okay, they have a more emphasis on the tiers part and the core part. But what I have feel in CSF 2.0, they have put down special emphasis on the profile part. So we will talk one by one and each and everything, that how these framework will work. So just keep this picture in mind, and at the end of the session we will be again coming back to this picture, and we will discuss with you people that how we are going to implement the framework. Okay, so we have seen that some features of framework. There are a little bit more features of framework, that it focuses on IT. It is talking about IT. It is talking about the ICS, Industrial Control System, or we used to say as a OT. Then we have a cyber physical systems. It is also as an OT environment, and IoT devices, because this is the new piece of cake for everyone. IoT, Internet of Things. So it is covering each and every part of the network. Also, the framework can assist organization in addressing cybersecurity as it affects the privacy of customers, employee, and other parties, because it is also talking about the privacy of the employees. In India, we do not have any act or rule which is talking about the privacy. Okay, we are in a run where after 2 or 3 years or something, I don't know, but privacy bill is in process, and maybe it got approved or rejected. That's all depend on the legislative powers. But this framework is talking about the privacy, and at least we can implement privacy at the organization level, because the most important part, CIAA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, should not be hampered in any case, because this is very important. The confidentiality, integrity, and availability is not to be hampered. I think this part has already covered. CIA triad is covered. Just type yes or no.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I think it's a very basic thing that you people have studied in the very first lecture. Na? Good. So why an organization adopt this framework? Okay, so I want to ask you people, why, if you are a CISO of your organization and you have some framework, like you are studying this framework, So why you require a framework? So these are the possible questions that why any organization adopt this framework. Particularly, I'm talking about the NIST CSF 1.1, that why you people going to adopt it, because it will describe your current cybersecurity posture. Okay, none other than this framework is talking about the current posture of your organization. Okay, let me write current cybersecurity posture of the organization. Okay, so none of the framework is talking about the current posture of the organization, and until and unless you do not know the current posture of your organization, you cannot move ahead, because still until unless you did not do a gap analysis, okay, that where you are, where you want to go, and what are the gaps between your targets and your current profile. So it's very hard. So this framework is giving you an option to create a current profile, and then to create a target profile, and then work hard, work with your team to put down your efforts, put down your finances if required, to achieve a target profile. Secondly, so this is a very first thing. Okay. Second, what we have, identify and prioritize opportunities for improvement within the context of continuous and repeatable process. Okay. So there are two type of processes. One is a continuous process and one is a non-continuous process. So can anybody tell what is a continuous process in any organization? If I talk about for cybersecurity, what is a continuous process? Any example?
Regular patch update.
Okay.
The regular patch update.
Okay. Other than that, that is a continuous process. Get VA. Yes. Who has said this? VA. Akhil Agarwal. Yes. Perfect. Kusum Saurabh is also saying VAPT. Yes. VAPT is a mandate as per the CEA guidelines, that in every 6 months a VAPT should be done. Okay, this VAPT is also enshrined in ISO 27001, and it is also stated in the NIST framework. So it will help you in identifying and prioritizing the things. Okay, so after you have implemented this framework into your organization, you can identify the vulnerable points, and you can decide that which vulnerability are need to be resolved first. Okay, so let me give you an example that your organization is connected to some BSNL WAN internet. Okay, and you have a router here, then you have a put down a firewall, and from this firewall you have put down a server one, which is nothing but a web server. Okay, one fine day during the VAPT process, you find that one vulnerability is in router, which is of high critical nature, and second vulnerability in found in server, which is also of high critical nature. So let me ask a simple question from you, that which vulnerability you will resolve first, your router or your server vulnerability?
Router.
Router. Why? Because
It will
yeah,
block
please.
the incoming traffic.
Because it is handling the incoming traffic, and it is basically a first line of defense for your organization to handle the threats. Is it fine? Is it right?
Yes.
Yeah. So why you have not resolved the server issue? Because if router vulnerability is not resolved, then your firewall is also on a risk, and even your server and even the other peripheral network that is connected below this environment, it's also at a verge of risk. Okay, so this framework will help you in prioritizing the events that which issues are need to be prioritized, and that prioritization need a documentation, and this framework will help you in documenting such events. Okay. The other one is describing the target state of cybersecurity. Okay, so this is like complementary to this. We will create a current profile, and then we will create a target profile. Then we will assess progress towards the target state. Basically, this is an assessment. Assessment means exams. Basically, no exams are not going to take on, so don't worry about it. We are giving spare and services of isolator, Nisarg Shah.
So remove that person right now.
Yeah, someone is, I think so, doing their marketing. Nisarg Shah, you please exit, or NPTI people, you please check it out, na, that how this person is there. Or maybe he is a participant, I don't know. Okay. Still is posting, no issues. Okay. So we are talking about the examinations. Okay. A spam. See, on this chat also we have a spam. Okay. So we have assessment, and assessment will help you in identifying that whether you are on a right track or not. Because until and unless you are not on a right track, your efforts are useless. Okay, let me give an example. It's a non-IT example. Let us suppose my weight is 110 kg. Okay, and I am running 2 kilometer per day. After 50 days, I found that my weight is 112 kg. So what do you think? Am I on a right track or not? Am I on a right track or not? No, because I need to assess that the efforts I'm doing is really helping me to achieve the desired results or not. So that's why this framework will help you in assessing the results. Okay, so this is about the overview of framework. I'm not going to read all this because we have already discussed all these things. Okay, so what are the basic components of the framework? So let us talk about the basic components of framework. So when we talk about framework, it is having basically 3 components. One is a core, other one is a tier, and the third one is a profile part. Okay, what is a core means? Core means guidance, like in navigation software. It will guide you. Okay, it will guide you about the journey to implement the framework. The tiers will tell you that how to do, and profile will tell you how we doing. Okay, so these words are maybe not getting so much closer to you, but definitely after some time you will understand each and every thing. Okay, so let us talk about one by one, that what is a core, what is a tier, and what is a profile. It's a 3-step process, CTV process we used to say. The framework core provides a set of activities to achieve specific cybersecurity outcomes and references examples of guidance to achieve those outcomes. Okay, so core is not a checklist of actions to perform. It presents key cybersecurity outcomes identified by stakeholders as helpful in managing cybersecurity risk. The core itself comprises of 4 elements. We call it as a function, category, subcategory, and informative references. Okay, so these are the 4 parts of a framework core. So this is the basic structure of a framework core, where we have some functions. Okay, so what is this? These are called functions. So how many functions we have? We have identity function, we have a protect function, we have a detect function, we have a respond function, and we have a recover function. And this is a cyclic process. Once you identify a function, there are certain categories. Okay, there are certain categories written in that function of identify. In each and every category you will find some subcategory, and for each subcategory you will find informative references. You can compare it with the controls. Okay, controls in ISO 27001. In ISO, they used to call it as a controls, and in NIST, if we compare, although the controls and subcategories are totally different, they have a different virtue of implementation also. But if I talk about subcategories, it can be somehow compared with the controls. Okay, so we have four basically functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So in total, we have 5 functions, and in each 5 functions we have a 23 categories, and in 23 categories we have 108 subcategories. Okay, so we are not going to talk about all the 23 categories or 108 subcategories, but we will have a gist of it, that how these categories will help us in implementing the framework into your organization. Okay, so let's start with the different type of functions we have. So we have basically 4 functions. We have identify, we have a protect, we have a detect, respond, and recover. Okay, now for every function we have a unique identifier. Okay, so for identity we have unique identifier as ID. For protect we have unique identifier as PR. For detect we have a DE, and for respond we have a RS, and for recover we have a RC. Why it is required? Because when you have implemented the framework into your organization and you want to communicate with some other organization which has already implemented it, so using the identifier, using the unique identifier, I would say it's very easy for you to communicate and share your experiences, share your problems with them. Okay, once you have a this is we are studying this core. When we will study the tier part of this framework, then you will get it more clear that once you want to improvise your environment into your organization for the cybersecurity resilience, you need to improve in the form of tiers. Okay, and for that, for assessment and for the sharing, you need this identifier. Okay, so any questions up to this? Any questions? No, great. So everything is clear or all clear? Eh? Because when there are no questions, there are 2 options. Everything is clear or all clear? Okay. If you have any doubt, na, you can interrupt me in between. Not an issue. Okay. Okay. So we have seen some type of functions. Now we will see that every function are having some category. Okay, every function is having a category. So for identify, we have a certain categories like asset management, business environment, governance, risk assessment, management strategy, and supply chain risk management. Here I want to mention that in 1.0 version it is not available, but in the version 1.1 specifically supply chain risk management was incorporated. Okay, as we have already said, in which year that this framework was released? 2018 this framework was released. And can anybody tell that what happened during this year from 2010 to 2018? Sorry, 10 is extra. That this supply chain risk management is need to be incorporated. Any idea? You people have stuck nets, and there is an attack. You people might be knowing about SolarWind attack. Okay, SolarWind attack. Have you heard this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, basically it's a supply chain attack.
Yes.
It's a supply chain attack, and SolarWind is basically a software and that software is used for network monitoring. And what attackers have done, they have embedded uh, they have embedded a malware inside the this software only. Okay, so this is supply chain attack, and the creators of this framework, the people who are working behind this framework, has incorporated specifically this supply chain risk management into the CSF 1.1. So that's what why I have mentioned this thing, because you people must understand that supply chain risk management is a really hot piece of cake right now. And even at government level, I am personally attached with Ministry of Power for this, that specifically vendor trusted vendor scheme is also coming, that is also talking about the verified vendors only, uh, trusted by the utilities. Okay, so it is still in the nascent phase, but very soon, in a 6 month or a year, you will going to hear that. Okay, second, we have a protect function. In the protect function, we have identity management and access control. Okay, so let's come back to this identity. One few things have left. So what exactly this identify function will do? Okay, the identify function will develop an organizational understanding to manage cybersecurity risk to system, people, asset, data, and capabilities. So, what you have to identify? You have to identify the systems at risk, the people at risk, the assets you have in your organization at risk, your data at risk, and capabilities at risk. Okay. One thing I need to mention here, when we talk about data, basically data is of two types: data at rest and data in transit. Okay, so I have a simple question from you people. So if you are a cybersecurity professional in your organization, you are taking care of cybersecurity, and the data it has rest and data it is in transit, two type of data exists for any organization. So do you put same type of controls for both of these, or you are putting different type of controls for both of these? Tell me.
Different type of.
Different type of controls, because
Different.
the the risk associated with both type of data is different. Okay, the risk associated with both type of data is different, and to cater the different risk, we need to have a different approach. So during the identification phase, we need to identify, when we are working on this data, you need to identify the data it has rest or data is in transit. And once you have identified these small petty things, you can identify the risk associated with them. And once the risk associated with them is being identified, you can mitigate it. Okay, you can mitigate it, and definitely you have a smile on your face once you have mitigated. So this is important. Once you identified it, the system capabilities are in front of you, and capabilities are also to be measured. Can anybody give an example what I mean the system capabilities and how it can be hampered? Anyone? DDoS. Yes. Kumarji. Correct. You are. Yes. Yes. Good. Yeah. Capability. Yeah. It's an example. DOS is a good example. Capabilities, I would say that you have a lot of servers in your organization. You have a lot of firewalls in your organization. Routers are there. Switches are there. And all these devices have a throughput. Okay, what does throughput means? A level after which the packets start dropping is called a throughput. Okay, so you must identify the capabilities of your organization, that what are my throughputs. Okay, tell me, how many of your people have ever think that you measure your capabilities? Have any of you measured your capabilities? The example that I am giving right now, how many have you measured your capability, that what is my throughput, and have you tested that throughput anywhere in your organization during the VAPT or something? Tell me. Okay, Kumarji has done. What about others? Because not yet. Okay, so some people are doing and some people are not doing. So it's good who are doing, because capability checking is a very important thing. Yeah, of CPU you are doing, Kumarji. Good, great. So when we are talking about the activities in the identify function are foundational for effective use of the framework, understanding the business context, the resources that support critical functions, and the related cybersecurity risk enable or an organization. So basically, we are doing the work to identify the critical resources in the organization. Okay, now come back to this. The second important function we have protect. Okay, so once we have identified the assets, now the second step is to protect it. And for that protection function, we have a certain set of categories, and that categories, if implemented into your organization, then definitely you will have a better overview of the assets, so that a possible risk can be mitigated before it actually happens. Okay, so what are the different categories in the protect function? We have identity management and access control, we have awareness and training, data and security, information protection processes and procedures, and maintenance. Okay, so all these four are talking about the protection mechanism of the IT assets or OT assets, I would say, in talking, if I specifically talk in the SCADA environment. Then thirdly, we have detect function, in which we have anomalies and event, security continuous monitoring, detection processes. Okay, tell me one thing, that which is a proactive thing? Proactive, protect or detect?
Detect.
Detect. Definitely, because this framework will also ask you basically to act proactively. Okay, although ISO has a certain controls that is asking the proactive approach of a user, proactive approach of a information security management system controllers, but NIST framework has specifically put down this detect function, and it is talking about certain categories that is really very excellent. You need to detect the anomalies and event, you need to detect the security continuous monitoring. Okay, let us suppose everybody is knowing about DNS query, because I am going to give an example for this DNS query. Okay, so let us suppose that this is your client machine, and this is some cloud server. Okay, and your network monitoring team is continuously seeing a DNS packet to this cloud server. Okay, although sending a DNS packet to obtain the domain is a regular process, but very fine day you have seen that from the last 10 days your machine is sending thousands of DNS packet to a particular client server. So do you think it is an anomaly or not?
Yes.
It is an anomaly. Okay, so to resolve that anomaly, what you will do? Because detection is something and to resolve the anomaly is something different. So once you have identified an anomaly, you need to respond to that anomaly. Okay, so once you have identified an anomaly, you need to respond to that anomaly, that how we going to clear it up and because in any government organization or any private organization, it doesn't matter, everything should be is into the form of a policy. Okay, because nobody is going to do with his own mind or without the consent of the whole team. So policy is important, and once you are writing a policy, the framework will ask you to incorporate the response plan. Okay, so how many organizations have a CCMP in place in their organization? How many of a CC have their CCMP in their organization? Yes or no? Okay. Under formulation, KPDCL. Okay. We are in process. Great. So basically, this cyber crisis management plan is nothing but your response planning. Okay. So this is your response planning, that how your system will going to respond. It will talk about response planning. It will talk about the communications. What exactly communication mean? Communication means that when the first person who have seen the anomaly or who have seen that the same systems are malfunctioning, then how he need to communicate that thing with CERT or other nodal agencies. Okay, so all these things are the part of communication. Then we have a analysis part. This is specifically to NIST framework. ISO is not talking so much about the analysis, but this NIST framework, because it is for the critical infra, and on every critical infra, analysis is a very important thing. Okay, so analysis is a part of this response function. Then we have a mitigation. Okay, because once your system is being compromised, once your system is being hacked, so you need to do the required mitigation process, so that the system, if hampered by certain adversaries, by certain malwares, then you should implement proper mitigation strategy to resolve it. Then we have improvements, that what improvements we need to do. Okay, so can anybody tell how we are going to find the improvements we need to do? What can be the improvements? In case you have a cyber attack, and okay, you have analyzed, you have mitigated, and now you have restored your services, and your management will ask that what improvement you will do. So on what basis you will tell to your management that okay sir, we will do these improvements? So what can be the basis, what can be the factors? Tell me. Analysis. Yeah, definitely you have done the analysis. I'm looking for a particular word actually. Patch management, firewall hardening. Definitely, it need to be done, Kumarji. What about others?
EDR.
Basically, you need to do a gap assessment. Okay, you need to do a gap assessment, that why your system is being hacked and what are the efforts that are not being done by you in a right time. Definitely, root cause analysis will help you out, Maninder ji. Root cause analysis will help you out in doing the gap assessment. That what are the gaps in your efforts, and what need to be done more to safeguard your system. Okay, so this improvement will help you so much, so that you can have a so improvement will help you so much, so that you can save your resilient infrastructure from a second attempt. Everybody is knowing about this recent cyber attack, Ames attack. What type of cyber attack it is?
Yes, sir. Like
What type of
billing reports.
Ransom.
ransomware? Okay, it's a ransomware attack, and do you know that after 7 to 8 days, it happened again? Do you know that? Can anybody tell what is the reason that why this attack happened again? gap audit. Okay, gap audit was done. Okay, so I can say gap audit was not done properly. Otherwise, if we have a proper analysis, if we have a proper gap audits, so I don't think so that second attempt can be done. What exactly nowadays malwares are doing? They are just sitting into your infrastructure very silently. Okay, they are not creating any noise. They are not transferring any data or connecting to the any C2 IP, because now most of the people are having knowledge of Wireshark and lot of packet sniffing tools. And after this emergence of security operation centers, okay, maybe some of your organizations have already have a security operations center in place. So they have a proper N1, L2, L3 resources, and these resources are working 24/7 to monitor the network. Okay, so what these APTs are doing, advanced persistent threat are doing, they are sitting silently. Okay, and they are acting as a, sometime we called it as a time bomb, something that at a specific time they need to act without any intervention or command from any external C2 IP server. So in this way, the AIMS second time attack was done. Okay. So after we have identify, we have protecting the asset, and we have a proactive analogy for detect. Then we will respond to the issues, and once you have all this, you need to recover. For recover, we have a separate functions. We have a recovery planning, what improvements we need to be done, and what communications we need to be established. Okay, you can see there are two different communication. In respond, we have also have a communication, and in recover, we also have a communication. Can anybody share why there are communications intentionally put two times in different functions? Anybody?
For sharing with the team members or other organization standard.
Yeah, because what happened in this response phase, your system is basically down. Okay, so you need to communicate with the stakeholders that what we have faced, and our systems are down. But when you recovered from your system, from your attack, or from your downtime, you need to again communicate with your stakeholders and other parties that we have recovered. So for particular categories, there are separate subcategories that we will discuss now, है ना? So what is a framework core? Let us discuss this thing also in detail. Although we have covered all this, but let me read it for you. So what is a framework core? Framework core element function. Function organize basic cybersecurity activities at their highest level. These functions are identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. They aid an organization in expressing its management of cybersecurity risk by organizing information, enabling risk management decision, addressing threats, and improving by learning from previous activities that we have done in detect and respond. The functions also align with existing methodologies for incident management and help show the impact of investments in cybersecurity. Because this is very important when you start investing in cybersecurity. So when you start investing in cybersecurity, investments in cybersecurity, you need to align with the existing methodologies. Okay, probably you are putting a next generation firewall in your organization, so you need to organize this, you need to deploy this device in such a way so that other uh, working devices, I would say, or existing live devices are in correlation with this. So all these things are very important part of this function part. Okay, in function we have a categories, and then each category have some certain subcategories, and each subcategory has a informative references. As I've already told a few minutes before, that informative references will help you that what other frameworks are talking about for this particular issue. So informative references are a specific section of standards, guidelines and practices common among critical infrastructure that illustrate a method to achieve the outcomes associated with each subcategory. Okay, the informative references presented in the framework core are illustrative and not exhaustive. They are based upon cross sector guidance because other frameworks are also updating. Like if I talk about ISO 27001, the previous version was 2013 and now we have a 2022 version. So definitely in reference to it, the NIST framework is also need to be updated. That's why it is not specifically related. It is not exhaustive. Okay. So what are the framework core functions? We have studied already: identify, protect, detect, respond, recover. Okay. Let us talk a simple structure of these capabilities, that what are the different capabilities for each function. So identify what processes and assets need protection. So you need to identify what assets and need to be protection. I think we have already discussed. Then we have a protect, that implement appropriate safeguard to ensure protection of enterprise assets. Then we have a detect, implement appropriate mechanism to identify the occurrence of cybersecurity incident, and it is a proactive measure. Okay, then we have a respond. In respond, develop techniques to contain the impact of cybersecurity event, because once a attack is done, our main target is to contain the impact. Contain the impact means to reduce the impact, because once an attack has done, so we need to reduce the impact so that it cannot move laterally inside the environment, inside the SCADA or ITOT servers. So this technique will help you in containing the impacts of cybersecurity. And in recover, last but not the least, implement the appropriate processes to restore capabilities and services impaired due to cybersecurity events. Okay, so this is the framework as a whole. Okay, we have identify, protect, and each of the functions. In each of the functions, we have certain categories. Okay, and I think we have discussed each and everything, everyone in a little bit detail. Okay, we have talked about identify. Okay, so this is a screenshot from the framework, so that you can have a better overview that what exactly is in the framework. Just hold for a moment. Am I not? Am I now audible? Am I audible and visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption. Actually, I have an urgent call and I need to take it. Thank you. So we are talking about identify, and this is a screenshot from the framework only, where you can see we have certain categories. For each category, we have a subcategory, and then we have a informative references. We are not going to talk about all 108 subcategories and 36 categories, but we will talk one by one that what are the different categories and subcategories, so that you can have a better idea that what exactly the framework is. Okay, so when we talk about category asset management, in identify there are a lot of categories. In one of categories asset management, so asset management is talking the data, personal devices, systems, and facilities that enable the organization to achieve business purposes are identified. So, in this process, basically in this phase, we need to identify the data and people, whether they have what capabilities do they have. Okay, we have already discussed that thing. So, in each subcategory, we have certain subcategories, and this is a unique identifier. Okay, so id.am-1, if I say this, so you can relate that I am talking about the identity function, and in that identity function we are talking about the category asset management. Okay, so we have like physical devices and systems within the organization and inventory. So this is a very basic thing, that all the organization inventories are need to be inventoried, and that inventory is very much useful when we are planning a protect phase for the organization, or we are planning a detect phase for an organization. Because what happens sometime, we have done an inventory and we have identified 100 assets. Let us suppose I'm taking an example, and few assets are not being identified during the proper identification phase. Now when you go for a VAPT, what exactly is happening? You are sharing that IP addresses with the auditor, said these are the inventoried assets in our organization, and the person who is authorized to do the VAPT of your system will only work on those 100 IPs only, and the 2 or 3 left devices which you have not inventoried due to any of the reason, maybe it is a manual mistake, or maybe proper visibility of devices is not there. So in that case the vulnerability exists, and it will open a threat surface to your organization, and even after a lot of efforts probably you are not able to protect your environment. So this is a simple example that I am sharing with you, that inventory is a important thing, and this NIST framework CSF is putting extra efforts on this. Even you can say this is the very first subcategory. Okay, so these control is basically, just a moment. बता तो दिया आपने, आपको ही बताया मम्मी का. हेलो, हाँ भैया. हाँ. Yeah, so you can see that lot of efforts are being taken for the identity management, and what the other frameworks and other references are talking is also included in the informative references. Like you can see for ISO, you can see for ISO, what are the guidelines in ISO, and on which particular control, you can see on which particular control the same thing, the same issue is taken care of, you can see. Okay, so this is the beauty of this framework, that it is also taking care of that what are the things that other frameworks are talking about. So how many of you have a interaction with this ISO framework? How many of you have worked on this ISO framework till now? Tell me, yes or no? How many of you? What about others? Okay, so when you will see that framework, so this part is really missing. Okay, this part is missing in ISO particularly, that what the other frameworks are talking about. Okay, so this part is missing, that what the other frameworks are talking about. And once you know this, that where the other frameworks are talking about for the same thing, it's very easy for you to manage the task, because on that particular issue lot of the people has already put down lot of efforts. Okay, so this is very important, and this will help you out in proactively working to resolve the cybersecurity issues your organization may face. Okay, in comparison to this, there are separate subcategories which is talking about software platforms, separate subcategories that is talking about organization, communication and data flow are mapped. Because if your data flows are not mapped, it's very hard to detect an anomaly, because until unless a proper data flow is not mapped, you cannot find that what is the changes in data that are not to be actually happened. Okay, so this issue is also covered in this framework. It is also talking about the external information systems and catalog, that what the external systems are talking about. It is talking about the resources, as we have already seen, cybersecurity roles, responsibilities and the entire workforce. Okay, so let me give you an example. Like most of the operation centers are nowadays 24/7, and in a shift of 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., it's a night shift. Some person is working on his desk and seeing some network traffic. Now think of a scenario, he has seen an anomaly. Okay, so what this person will do? Tell me, what is the first step he will do? What is the first step he will do? Anybody can unmute himself or herself. Isolate that system. Okay, what about others? Inform nodal head. Okay. Okay, so Kumarji, let concentrate on your answer. You have given two options. Okay, one is a isolation, and second one is a communication. Okay, communication to seniors or something. Okay, now what exactly you need to do, it is as per the policy. Okay, so this is also important, that the cybersecurity roles and responsibility of the entire workforce are need to be mapped. Okay, roles and responsibility of entire workforce are need to be mapped as per the IT policy, I would say. IT policy, because that IT policy will help you that how you going to handle that particular risk. So to handle that risk, the important thing is you need to identify the issues. Then we have a second, we have a protect. Let's go directly to this. In this protect, we can see that there are separate identifier, AC, PR, AC attached to it, like protect. Then we have a access control. For particular access control, we have a separate subcategories. As you can see, this is not the exhaustive list. But remote access management is a very important that is enshrined in this. Also, ISO is talking about this remote access management. But when you compare vis-a-vis the two standards, you will see that remote access management is a bit higher and bit technical in this NIST framework. Okay, because NIST framework is focusing on the critical infrastructure, and ISO frameworks are not focusing on the critical infrastructure. It is basically for the information security management system. So this is a little bit difference between both of them, and this difference is enough to help you and creating a vision in your mind that how this framework will help you out in comparison to the ISO frameworks. I am not saying at anywhere that which framework is better or ISO is not better. I am just comparing vis-a-vis two standards in front of you and sharing the facts related to the NIST framework. Okay, so it will identify and credentials are issued, revoked, audited, and all this. So it is talking about revoking of credentials. Okay, revoking of credentials is also important. Okay, so participants, I want to ask that what policy you have in revoking the credentials if a employee got transferred or he just got retired. What is the policy you have? Any policy is there or not?
Working time period, number of years,
Okay. So what
the
you
length
do
of service.
when a person got retired? What you do? How you revoke his credentials? Tell me. There
Sir,
are
currently there is a manual process associated with this retiring someone out and getting somebody in his place. There is a simple email is used currently since we don't have ERP implemented currently. So
Okay.
once an email new incumbent drops a mail, and then his credentials are created in the system. The
Okay.
old ones are revoked.
Revoke. Great, great. So I have written two words on the screen. One is the authorization and one is the authentication. Can anybody can tell differences between the two, authorization and authentication? Anyone?
Authorization basically is given according to his or her posts.
Okay.
And authentication basically that person is not. Just like the digital signatures we match.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Let us take an example of Linux where we have a root user. Okay. What root user is? Root user is the super user, like a administrator in Windows. Okay. So if a person is having this root access, it means he has a highest level of authorization. Okay. And if it is has a user access, then it is a lowest access of level of authorization. What authentication means? Authentication means how he is going to prove his identity. So whether he is going to use his password or is it's biometric. And nowadays there is a new word which we everyone is using, that we call it as a MFA, multi-factor authentication, where with password we are using some RFID card or some biometrics. Okay, so this is a one of a way that you can do, but actually the issue persists in the OT environment. Okay, what actually issue in the OT environment, because you have RTUs in place. Okay, very remote RTUs in place, and for each and every RTU you have some authentication. Okay, maybe you have some user ID, you have a password, and once a person got retired, most of the organization are not changing these user ID and passwords. And definitely it's a regular process, and some people will say that how many times we going to change it, because every year or in every 6 months somebody is retiring or somebody is transferring. So what you can do, you can implement the MFA with this multi-factor authentication. So do not need to change the password, just add the biometrics with it. Okay, so if a person is not physically accessible in that location, even if we know the password, he cannot do anything without his physical biometric access. So That's why this protect function is talking about all these things. Okay, this protect function is talking about all these things. Any issue in this? Because this is very important in perspective for the OT environment. Any issue? Understood this thing? Because this is very important. Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Then we have a physical access to asset is managed and protected. So this is the same thing that we have talked right now using the MFA. So physical access should be restricted, which can be done using some RFID entry or some biometric entry. The remote access is managed because what CA guidelines are saying that remote access is 100% blocked. You cannot give remote access to anyone, okay, across the nation of the OT infrastructure. So these are the important things that you need to take care for the protect function. Okay, then we have a detect function. What exactly detect function we have understood? We are just going to directly see a screenshot that will explain more about this. So we know that this is an identifier. For first detect we have an anomalies and event. Then for particular anomalies and event we have certain subcategories, and I would say that this can be the best subcategories you can ever find in any of the framework. Even COBIT is also a framework. COBIT has also not explained so well. You can see na COBIT has also referred at many times. Okay, so unlike NIST, this cybersecurity framework, COVID is also a framework, and but NIST has so much well explained and had a wider coverage actually to handle the critical infrastructure issue. So a baseline of network operation and expected data flow for users and system is established and managed. So you must have a baseline that what is the minimum baseline of a traffic that is flowing into a network, and while doing the network analysis, if a very fine day you find that the traffic is uprising on a higher rate, or you can see that during the night time the output traffic is increasing on a very high rate. So this can be a anomaly that is basically detected on the basis of a baseline. So defining the baseline is very much important. Second, we have a detected events are analyzed to understand attack targets and methods. So we need to detect and analyze that what are the different events that has happened, so that we can understand that what are the targets that are being attacked by the adversaries and what are the different methods. Also, event data are collected and correlated from multiple sources and sensors. This is particularly for the RTO, I would say, for the OT environment. Okay. Then impact of event is determined, incident alert threshold are established. So there are a lot of things. I'm not able to cover each and everything, because if I try to cover each and everything, it will take 2 or 3 more sessions. But since we have a single session for NIST framework, so I'm trying to make you people build a analogy, build a logic that what different functions are taking care of. And this I've already said, this is a proactive function. Okay. Then we have a security continuous monitoring. Then we have in this we have the network is monitored to detect potential cybersecurity events. So this is the same thing we have talked earlier. Then we have a response function. In response, we have a particular category, subcategory. We need to have a response plan. Definitely, you people must be having a CCMP. If not done, then your teams are already working on it. The personnel know their roles and order for operation when a response is needed. So this is the perfect answer for the question that I have asked. Okay, that I have asked here. Okay, I have asked the question here. Remember that what this person is going to do. So the answer is in response part. So now you can see, is it making a sense or not? That every question that is in your mind is now getting connected. Okay, so this is the response of a person. He must their roles and order of operations when a response is needed, because order of operations is required. You cannot call to your CMD or to your chairman that we have a malware into our network computer. Okay, so you have a chain for that. Probably you have a CISO for that, then you have a CISO for that. CISO will talk to the chairman, or there should be a operational way that is enshrined in the cyber crisis management plan. Then incidents are reported consistent with established criteria. Then we have information is shared consistent with response plan. Then coordination with stakeholders occurs consistent with response plan. So these are the important things that need to be taken care of. Also, voluntary information sharing occurs with external stakeholders to achieve broader cyber security situational awareness. Okay, tell me how many organizations or how many people that are from the organization are doing this? Tell me. How many of you are doing this thing? rs.co5. Okay, just tell you are doing or not, yes or no, in chat box. Yes, what you are saying, sir? No. Okay. Okay, so as I can see, none of the organization is sharing the information with the external stakeholders. Now think of a scenario. There is a organization CSK. There is a entity CSK. How many of you know about CSK?
Yes, sir.
What that CSK do?
Cyber Swachhta Kendra.
Cyber Swachhata Kendra. And what they are doing?
Sir, they are monitoring actually all the IT systems, and
They are monitoring.
I
Yeah.
think IPs are shared with them.
So
And
whenever they find a threat, okay, find a threat in your environment, probably they have find some IOCs. Okay, they have find an IP, which is basically a C2 IP. Okay, do you know what is a C2 IP? Anybody know what is a C2 IP? Or I will explain it. Okay, I will do. Okay, what happened actually is when any malware is installed in your system, it is trying to contact with a C2 IP. C2 IP is command and control IP. Okay, so normally they are state sponsored actors slash advisories. Okay, so they are state sponsored actors, means probably they are getting funding from China or Pakistan or from somewhere from Korea or somewhere. So these are the IP. Basically, they are the server IP, and these malwares are trying to contact with these IPs. Okay, so these C2 IPs are identified during some of the forensic investigation, and that CSK is then sending these IPs to different utilities, to Rajasthan, to Haryana, to Delhi, to Punjab, so that the same C2 IP shall be blocked in each and every firewall of each and every state. Why it is required? Because if some malware or some adversary is targeting Rajasthan, so probably he is targeting other states also. So other state also know about the fact, know about the IOC, that which C2 server is trying to attack us. Okay, so this is basically voluntary information sharing occurs with external stakeholders. When we talk about tiers after this, or when we will talking about tiers, you will understand this thing very well. Okay. Then in the recover, we have a certain recover categories. We have a recover function. Then we have a categories, and in these categories we have a subcategories, and then we have a informative references. So in recovery planning, recovery process and procedures are executed and maintained to ensure restoration of system or assets affected by cybersecurity incidents. Then we have a dedicated recovery plan that is also already a part of CCMP, and sometime we have a BCP plan, business continuity plan is also there. Also, improvement is an important part for recovery plans incorporate lessons learned, because lessons learned are very much important. Basically, they are the gaps that are not being fulfilled before an attack. So lesson learned will help you in finding the gaps that are need to be taken care of. Okay. Then we have a recovery strategies and updated. So these are the important 5 functions that we have covered. So till now we have covered this core part. What are the core parts? So any questions up to this in core part? Because this is really a lengthy part. We have already spent around 90 minutes on this. So any questions up to this? Anyone?
Sir, is NIST implementation required within 27,001 certification?
No. They basically they work in isolation. Okay, NIST and ISO 27001, they can be implemented in isolation, and if you want to do these both installation, both implementation at the same time, you can also do that. That's why this is enshrined here, na. If you want to implement this thing, okay, you want to implement this thing, this same thing is also available in this control ISO IEC A16.1.5. Okay. So you can implement both of the frameworks at the same time with at least very much less efforts, and I would say around 20% of the things are not common. Okay, so when you see all the relevant controls, you can see that 20% things are not there. So you can have to put extra efforts for these 20%. Okay?
Yes, sir. That's why I said because I found overlaps between the two. So that's
No, overlap is something, if I'm saying in asset management, to identify the asset. Okay, identify
yes.
the asset. It is the same thing that is ISO is also talking about. So
Infrastructure identification. Yeah.
identification structure. So identification, because this framework is not giving you any particular you can say format also. No particular format is provided. Okay, so you can take your own formats, or you can use the existing ISO templates.
Right.
If you have an existing ISO template in your organization, so you can use them. Why this framework is having a upper hand or a better hand than ISO? Because it is talking about the progress of your security. Because if I talk about ISO, most of the people just implement it, get a certificate on wall, and just have a surveillance audit in every 6 months, and then get free out of it. But this is a continuous process, and this continuous process will help you out that your target profile is achieved or not. In the profile section, I'm going to talk on that, just few slides more. Then this thing very much clear to you. Okay, sir?
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's your good name? From which organization you are?
I'm Shurjeel. I'm from KPDCL, Kashmir Power Distribution Corporation Limited.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we have talked about core. Now we will be talking about the implementation tiers. Okay, and what is so important about this implementation tier is that certain organizations are on tier 1 and certain organizations are on tier 4. So we have to decide at our own that exactly where we lie. Okay, so we have to decide that where we lie. Okay, what are the different pointers, I would say, that is going to judge about your performance. You can say it as a performance also. Performance or current performance. That how your organization is performing currently. Okay. So in tier 1, the name is partial tier. Then we have a risk informed tier, then repeatable tier and adaptive tier. Okay. So when I talk about the 3 pointers, what are the 3 important parts? Risk management process, integrated risk management program and external participation. Because most of the times organization create a risk management process. Okay, they create a risk management process, but to implement that risk management process you need to have a program. So sometime organization have this, but they do not have a program to implement that, and definitely they do not have external participation. Can anybody tell? I have just a few minutes before talked about external participation. Can you relate this? Just I have given an example. Anyone? I have given an example for CSK, Cyber Security Kendra. Okay, so Cyber Security Kendra is in tier 4. Okay, because they are having a proper risk management process. I'm just taking an example. They have a proper program for the management process, and then they are doing the external participation also to sharing the threats with you. Okay, so just take 1 or 2 minutes, I would say, and ask in your own mind that where you exactly lie. Do you have proper risk management process? If you have risk management process, do you have proper risk management program to implement it? And are you taking care of external participation? So let it be, take it as an exercise, and I wish that you response in chat box between number 1 to 4. If you think that your organization is adaptive, you have a perfect risk management process, you have a perfect risk management program and external participation, you can keep it your organization in 4. Okay, so this is not going to like record somewhere or something. You just need to have a understanding on this tiers concept. So I'm just waiting for your responses in chat box. There are 100 participants. Why I'm seeing just 2 or 3 participants are taken care of? Only 2 responses. Okay, some might be thinking, na. Try to respond, because if you are not responding to me, it means you are not taking what I am trying to tell you, or maybe you are not taking interest. Okay, so Sudipta, since you do not have a risk management process, so definitely you are on a tier 1 only. Okay, so this slide will help you out in understanding and responding well to me. As per the responses, the mean average is 2. So I would say the most of the organization on this informed phase only. And what do you wish to go to this phase once a day? Do you wish? At least tell me, do you wish to go to adaptive phase?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Why not?
yes, everybody want to go to this adaptive phase. So we need to do a gap assessment, that what are the challenges that hindering us to achieve this adaptive phase. Okay, so what are the challenges that are hindering us to get this adaptive phase? Okay, so in what is in the partial tier, incomplete or manual inventory. So there are not proper inventorization of the inventory. Incomplete and non-continuous vulnerability assessment. No one is taking care of the vulnerability, and definitely there is no external participation. Okay, then we move forward. So basically this tell you about the maturity. Okay, have you heard about any model till now other than a NIST which is talking about the maturity of your organization, that at what level of maturity you are? I would say everybody is talking about ISO 27001, and in whole of the ISO 27001, me myself is a lead auditor for 27001. I have done more than 25 audits for multiple organizations, but this maturity phase is a real forte, I would say, of CSF 1.1, and is going to be 2.0 very soon. Okay, so this is the beauty of this framework, and that's why I am putting these extra efforts to make you people understand that what are the different tiers. Okay, in the second tier we have a informed. If we have a continuous asset discovery and inventory management, definitely we have a upper hand than this. Then we have a continuous vulnerability assess across 100 plus attack vendors. We can quantify the impact of deployed mitigation on risk. So these are, you can see the level of capabilities are increasing. Okay, you can see that previous level of capabilities are already there. Let us suppose this is a 10 level. So already 10 level is there, and certain 30 level capabilities are added. So now score is 40. Now again previous level capabilities in the advanced, so having a 50 plus again some 50 score is also it is having, because you can see the maturity is increasing as we increasing the adaptive from the partial to adaptive phase. So these three things are very important: risk management, integrated risk management process, and external participation. And these three things will help you out in finding the real cybersecurity resilience in your organization. Okay, this is about tier 1 partial. So let me read it for you. So basically on the three categories we are assigning the scores: risk management process, integrated risk management program, and external participation. I think we have already discussed about all these things. Okay, so now let us take about we have completed the tiers core, we have completed the tiers. So 33%, 33%, so 66% we have covered. Any questions up to this in this 66% of content that we have covered? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Okay, great. So now we are moving on to the third important part, that is a profile part. Okay. So what is a framework profile? So let us define a framework profile first, and then we will move to it. The framework profile is the alignment of functions, categories, and subcategories with the business requirement, risk tolerance, and resources of the organization. We need to align our functions, categories, subcategories as per the business requirements. Okay, a profile enables organization to establish a roadmap for reducing cybersecurity risk that is well assigned with organizational and sector goals, considering the legal and regulatory requirements, because this is important. Legal requirements also need to be followed, and industry best practices, and reflect risk management practice. So every time when we are talking about the profile, the risk management is an important task, because risk management has selected the tiers. When you are selecting the tier for the company, whether it is adaptive or whether it is in the first phase or fourth phase, you can see the risk management is a very important part of it. Given the complexity of many organizations, they may choose to have multiple profiles aligned with particular components and recognizing their individual needs. So when we talk about the profile part, you can see we have some business objective, we have a threat environment, that is existing threat environment, I would say. Okay, we have an existing threat environment. Okay, existing threat environment we have. Then we have some requirements and controls. Okay, we have some requirements. So all these three, the business objective, threat environment, and requirement and controls are need to be summed up to create a cybersecurity profile. And this profile will help you to record our current status, that where we are standing right now. Because if you do not know that what are your strength, weakness, opportunity and threats, that we called it as a SWOT analysis, it's very hard for an organization to implement a resilient environment. Okay. So in this we have seen the current profile. A current profile shall be created using your business objectives, using your threat environment, requirement and controls. And after that we are going to create a target profile. So target profile is basically the end result we wish to have. Okay, so this is the end result we wish to have. Framework profile can be used to describe the current state or the desired state of specific cybersecurity activities. The current profile indicates the cybersecurity outcomes that are currently being achieved. The target profile indicates the outcomes needed to achieve the desired cybersecurity risk management goals. So basically, this profile, target profile, indicate the outcome needed to achieve. Okay, so just take these two important words: outcomes needed to be achieved. Okay, so let us suppose that you are allowed remote access in your current profile, and you wish to have in target profile blocking of remote access. Okay, so now you can see in your current profile you are allowing remote access, in your target profile you want to block your remote access, but between the two there is a gap, that how to do that. How to do that? So to doing that you need a, what you need? You need a strategy, and that strategy requires some resources. Okay, probably before this you are using TeamViewer. Okay, and now let us suppose you want to give a VPN, a secured VPN, I would say. So giving a VPN connectivity requires some resources. Resources require some funds. Okay, so you can see that there is a chain of event. So from migrating to current profile to target profile, you need lot of things. You need strategy, you need resources, you need funds. So all these things are need to be categorized and also to be recorded, so that you can convince your management for the releasing of funds and all. So there are a lot of things that can be achieved using a target profile when we compare it with the current profile. So any question in this, because this thing is very much important. Now we are getting closer to the implementation part. Any questions in this? Okay, okay, great. So let's implement. This is basically implementation. Now you have understand about the three important parts. Okay. What happened? Okay. Establishing or improving a cybersecurity program. So steps are needed to be taken care of. First, you need to prioritize and scope. Then you need to orient. Then you need to create a current profile, conduct a risk assessment, create a target profile, determine, analyze and prioritize gaps, implement action plan. So let us talk about each and every one. So in the first step, you need to prioritize and scope. When you need to prioritize and scope, you need to take care of your regulatory requirements, that what are the regulatory requirements, and is the existing policies, is the existing IT policies already implemented into your organization, is in line with the organization structure or not. What are your business goals, what are your mission goals, and what are the business drivers you are using to implement those mission goals with the available resources, with the available funds, or I would say available budget you have. So these are the things when we talk about prioritize and scope. Because Tejasvi is asking, any organization lies in which tier or in which profiles look similar? Tejasvi ji, kindly unmute yourself and ask, because I am not able to understand your question. Tejasvi ji, I am not able to understand your question. Can you please unmute yourself? Okay, maybe there is some technical issue. Am I audible or not properly?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Audible.
Yes, sir. Audible.
Yeah. So we have seen that we need to prioritize and scope, that what is the scope of our organization. Because now, let us suppose that any, like we are from power sector, okay, power sector, and during studying the NIST framework, it is talking about the software development life cycle. Okay, it is talking about software development life cycle. Like NIST is talking about software development life cycle. So do you think if your organization is not having a in-house development functionality, this guideline is of any use to you or not? It is of any use or not?
Yes,
No,
sir.
sir. It is.
It is of no use, because you are not developing any in-house software. Okay, you are not developing any in-house software. So how does a software development life cycle will be helpful in your organization? So that's why scope is very important. Whenever you try to implement the framework, you need to take care of that, what is the scope. Since software development is not your forte, software development is not done by your team, so how does software development life cycle be the part of your of your scope? Understood? Why I
Sir,
put
we
down?
have.
Yes.
Sir, we have an in-house software
Definitely,
development license.
if you like, most of the organization don't have, they need to sublet that thing. But definitely if you have, then only you need to incorporate the software development life cycle controls into your organization scope, otherwise not. Just think of a scenario, if you do not have that, do you include this HDLC in your organization structure? Yes or no?
No.
No. So prioritization and scope determination is a very important thing. Okay. Second, that important thing is about the orient. Okay. What orient means, once the scope of the cybersecurity program has been determined for the business line or process, the organization identifies related system and assets, regulatory requirements, and overall risk approach. The organization then consults sources to identify threats and vulnerability applicable to those systems and assets. If I say that VAPT is a part of this process or not, you are orienting your organization towards a resilient cybersecurity resilience environment. Okay, you are finding that what are the risks, you are finding that where the vulnerability exists, you are checking your threat landscape. Okay, you are checking your threat landscape, you have incorporated trainings into your organization. So this is all the part of a orient part, that you are orienting your organization. Okay, then you need to create a current profile. Once you have done VAPT, you have done a risk assessment, then you need to create a current profile. Okay, so for current profile, for every function you have a category, for every category you have a subcategory, and in that particular subcategory you have to write your current action. Okay, let us suppose in function identify there is a asset management function and subcategories is inventorying, and current action is no inventory is done. Okay, so this is your current profile, that no inventory is being done from your organization. So this current profile will help you recorded with the date of the development, that at particular date and time what is the status of your organization and what exactly you want to achieve. Because when we are creating a target profile, you can see that current profile will help you very much. After this, you will conduct a risk assessment, that what are the risks and what are the acceptable risk, unacceptable risk, and what risk we need to mitigate on a priority. Then in the step 5, we will create a target profile. Okay, we will create a target profile. Let us suppose that same example, let us take in current profile we have written no inventory done. Okay, this is the current profile. In the target profile we will write automatic tools are to be used. Okay, so currently you are not inventorying anything, and in the target profile you are saying that automatically tools are to be used. So now the same question is, you have to find the gaps in between, that what are the gaps that are hindering you to implement this automatic tools inventorization. Okay, so this is done in the determine, analyze and priority gaps. You need to find the gaps that are hindering you to achieve your target profile. So you have a current profile, you have done a risk assessment, and after that, that risks are being incorporated in the current state and create a target state for you. So in this way, you can see a current profile can be help to find the current actual status of the cyber resiliency into your organization. Also, it is very important thing that target state will help you to convince your management that how the things are going and where you want to take your organization. Okay, so any questions in this? Yeah, question. Gaurav ji have a question. Is target profile similar to risk matrix and risk assessment? No, actually the risk matrix and risk assessment will help you in finding out the gaps in your current state. That if you are saying that your inventory is not done, so risk assessment will tell you that your inventory, that non-inventory of your assets is creating these particular risk into your environment. And after that risk assessment, you are able to know that if you have a proper setup for inventory of the assets, then these risks can be resolved. Okay, and if I talk about particularly of the if I talk particularly about risk, so how many type of risk are there? Can anybody tell? Some risks are need to be mitigated. Okay, some risks are accepted and some are transferred. Can anybody tell what is the difference between the two? 3 actually. Any participant out of 101 participant? Nobody is trying to attempt this.
Sir, can you repeat the question, sir? I was on call.
I am saying that there are three type of things we usually do with risk. First, we mitigate the risk. Second, we accept the risk, and third, we transfer the risk. So, can anybody explain this? What exactly I am talking about? because each and every risk is not to be. Yeah, somebody saying.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Risk mitigation means the process of reducing risk to minimize the risk. That is the core objective behind mitigation. And about and second one is, sir,
Accepted, risk accepted.
risk accepted means it's somewhat acknowledging. That is.
Okay, and what about transferred?
Transferred means, sir, to transferring the risk to the right person or to the admin people for carrying out the executions. What are the risks that we have? How we will resolve those risks? That's the reason why we transfer the risk to the concerned either to admin or to the person who will resolve the issue.
Good, good. What's your name and organization, sir?
Sir, I am Sanjay Vishwal from OHPC.
Okay, good. Thank you for answering. Okay, let me give you a scenario so that you can have a better understanding about the risk management. Okay, let us suppose that same example. This is a internet, BSNL internet, and we have connected a router. Then we have connected a firewall, and with this firewall we have connected a switch, something L3 switch, and then we have 100 PCs are connected. Okay, in this there are some vulnerabilities in router. Same question. There are some vulnerabilities in firewall. Okay, and there are some same vulnerabilities like they are running Windows 7. Okay, into their system. All the devices are having some of the vulnerability. Now we have a certain budget. It is logically correct that all the vulnerabilities are need to be addressed. But at an organization, sometime when you are taking the decisions, you have to take care of the some of the budgetary requirements also. So in that case, if you put down efforts to resolve this, it means you are mitigating the risk. You are doing your efforts to resolve the risk. Okay, let us suppose your admin has decided to continue for 6 more months with Windows 7. It means you are accepting the risk. Okay, we are ready with the risk and we will take care of at the firewall level. Okay, and what is means by transferring of risk? It means in case your firewall is not on premises. I'm taking an example. It is not on premises. It is on cloud. Okay, it is on cloud. So the risk is now transferred to the cloud owner. Okay, so this is the example. How the risk is mitigated, how the risk is accepted, and how the risk is transferred. Because this is very important. How you going to take care of the risk? Because every risk cannot be mitigated. Because every risk needs some certain expertise. Every risk, every vulnerability needs some additional funds. So this is the way we take care of determining, analyzing, and prioritizing the gaps. Okay. So any questions in this? Is it clear to everyone about the risk? What are the different type of risk and how we going to see these risks? Yes or no?
Sir, can you explain the transfer in another scenario?
Okay, okay. Transfer the another scenario. Okay, okay. Let us suppose that your firewall is in AMC. Simple scenario. Your firewall is in AMC. So, do you going to pay for that firewall vulnerability, or the OEM will do that?
It will depend on the type of contract we are
It's
having
in
with
warranty. It's in warranty, or I would say guarantee. 3-year guarantee it is. where it is as per the contract, each and every update is to be taken care of by the OEM. In that scenario, who will going to pay for it?
OEM will pay.
OEM. So basically, you are transferring your risk to OEM. Okay, and he will going to mitigate. Actually, it need to be mitigated. Actually, every risk need to be mitigated, but who will going to mitigate is an important thing. When we are accepting the risk, okay, when we are accepting the risk, it means we are holding for some time. At the end of the day, we have to mitigate the same. Now it's clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is basically now at the last but not the least step, we have a implementation action plan. The organization determines which action to be taken to address the gaps. Now the same thing, gap analysis, if any, identified in a previous steps, and then adjust its current cybersecurity practice in order to achieve the target profiles. The framework identifies example informative references. So this is also important, how the other references are talking about. So they can also be referred. Okay. So in this way, the NIST Cyber Security Framework is being implemented. So this here we end the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, but this is not the end of the session. We're going to talk about risk assessment in few minutes. But before it, do you have any query in this NIST framework? Then we will move to the risk assessment. Anybody has any question? You can use chat box or unmute yourself. What about others?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, with regard to the target profile, since I think that should be the same for all the utilities, because that has been set by the ministry. So it will be the starting point where from we are starting, basically whether tier 1 or 2 or 3. And I feel that the target profile should be the same for all the utilities.
Excellent suggestions and an excellent observation. Excellent observation and excellent suggestion, and definitely I will share it with the ministry people, because every SCADA environment or every utility has the same targets to have a safer and resilient cyber infrastructure. So to implement it, definitely the target profile should be the same. Very nice, very nice. Anybody else? What about others? 101 participants are there. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the risk assessment. What exactly the risk assessment is? What do people think? What is a risk assessment?
Sir, identify the risk and its impact on the company or organization.
Most of the people do this yearly for their family.
Yes, sir. We do.
You do. So basically, you are assessing the risks associated with your health. Yes or no?
Yes.
In the same way, when we are assessing the health of our IT, OT, about our human resources, our software products, anything, it is called a risk assessment. We are basically assessing the health of our IT, OT infra. To identify the security requirements of the organization information assets, we do risk assessment. To review the consequences of the risk, impact to the business, we do a risk assessment. To make decisions on how to manage the risk, we do the risk assessment. So basically, these are the three purposes. They are not exhaustive, but they are the major purposes for what we do the risk assessment. So what are the key elements? I would say key elements for the risk assessment. We have assets on which we do the risk assessment. Asset includes your physical assets, your people, your paper, even your files or something, your information, any type of information if you have, that is also need to be taken care of. Then the important thing is about your softwares and services. Software and services are very much important when we talk about the risk assessment, because most of the people forgot this services part while doing the risk assessment. Okay, like if I say, what are the different services you are acquiring to run a data center? Tell me.
Hardware, compute, storage devices.
Let us jot down something. What you said?
Sir, CPU, hard disk,
No, I am talking about services.
services, so data storage service,
Yeah, it is a service. And
Maintenance work, maintenance work, any kind of maintenance work,
yes, maintenance work,
upgradation of new systems, new software,
upgradation. Okay. Then your electricity.
Yes, sir.
Electricity is also
And
service.
and network services.
Network services.
Sir, cloud services are also part of the, if we
Cloud.
take
One of the very important thing, cleaning, housekeeping.
housekeeping.
Okay, just think of a scenario. Your housekeeping staff is absent for 20 days. Are you able to work in your environment? Who will clean your laboratory? Who will clean your dustbin? Okay. So when we are doing the risk assessment, everything should be covered. I think I am able to create a vision in front of you that each and every small services can be very much important. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So services at a whole, each and everything should be jotted down and should be assessed. Who are the risk owners? Who are the asset owners? It need to be mapped. Because sometimes when we work in a cloud environment, or when we work for a cloud data center, we host some of our services to some external parties, to some external data center. In that case, the risk owners should be known to the person who is taking care of the asset. Also, the asset evaluation should be done on the three important figures, that is a confidentiality, integrity and availability. Then you should be knowing the possible threats. Can anybody tell, when I have taught you certain functions, 5 functions, possible threats should be in which function? Finding possible threat.
Detection.
Detect. Good. Okay, so this is the part. You should know what are the possible threats, what are the possible vulnerabilities. What are the possible vulnerability? Just hold for a moment. Okay, so I'm talking like what are the vulnerabilities we have, then what are the probability value for occurrence of that threat. Because let me give an example. Earthquake is a threat or not? Tell me.
Yes.
And DDoS attack is a threat or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Which threat is having a high probability value?
DDoS.
DDoS is have a
Hi.
high probability value. And which threat will do the highest impact, earthquake or DDoS?
Earthquake.
Impact high. So you can see that when we are talking about threats, we have to take care of the impact and the occurrence or likelihood. Understood? So this thing is very important. Whenever we are talking about threats, we need to take care of the impact, how much impact it is doing, and what is the likelihood. Okay. So let us do this example. This is an example calculating the risk scores. You can see there are certain information assets. These are certain information assets where we have like unauthorized access. Unauthorized access has a high probability. Okay. And when we are talking about the impact, we need to take care of impact on the financial of the organization, on the services of the organization, reputation of the organization, and compliance of the organization. So in this case, unauthorized access having a high impact on all the four, that is financial, service, reputational, and compliance. So for every threat we have a certain probability value, and for every threat we have a certain threat impact value. So in this way, for each and every threat you have to take care of that what is the probability. It never means that high probability means high impact, but sometimes low probability threats can give you a high impact like earthquake. Okay. In the same way, let us take this malicious error. It has a probability 3. Definitely it has a impact on high impact on financial services, reputation, and compliance. When we talk about theft and fraud, okay, so tell me what is the probability of theft and fraud from scale 1 to 4? 1 means low and 4 is high. What is the probability that someone came to your data center and just take your server with him? What is the probability?
Hi.
High.
Very less.
Low.
Very less.
It should be very less, because definitely you have a physical security intact. Because you have a physical security, you have a 24/7 operations data center, then definitely it's very hard for him to theft a server from your data center. But its impact is high or low? Definitely its impact is very high. So in this way, we need to understand that what are the impact of certain threats depending upon the probability value. So in this way, we can do the threat assessment, and this threat assessment will guide you to do a probable scenario of your risk environment about your threat landscape. You are able to find that what are the loopholes and what are the points you need to take care of so that the risk associated with your data center, with your IT/OT environment should be mitigated. So this is basically we have targeted to taken care of, and if any questions from your side, I would love to answer them. Any questions from your side?
Sir, assigning of scores to these risks is it will depend from one organization to another organization, or are there any guidelines for assigning these weights?
Actually, there is no guideline for assigning this. Like I have taken a scale from 1 to 4. You can also take a scale from 1 to 10, because it all depends that how you people take risk as in your organization. So there is no scale, but I recommend to at least take 1 to 4 scale, so that you can divide into 25%, so that you can improvise the risk scores and try to resolve, try to mitigate and prioritize it, because high the risk score means you have a high priority to resolve it. Okay.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I think most of the organization are still they are preparing for the ISO. So I would recommend that you start working on this framework also. This is also a good framework. Somebody has asked in chat box. Let me answer this question. Yeah, somebody is asking about HIRA, hazardous identification and risk assessment. Definitely, HIRA is a part of ISO, hazard identification and risk assessment, and all these things that we have taken as an example, like earthquake or threat, is basically a part of this HIRA, hazard identification and risk assessment only. I think so. Who has asked this question? Kumar Saurav Salil. Is it fine? Salil ji, this is the you want to ask, na? Okay, good. Maninder Nath ji is asking why CERT asked for 27001 certification, not NIST, because NIST is not providing any kind of certification. I have already stated. NIST is a implementation guidance, implementation framework. Okay. And ISO is giving us, because ISO is a certifiable standard and NIST is not a certifiable standard.
So if there is no certification, then how